Okay, today we've got Ricky Carruth, and he is a firecracker, ladies and gentlemen. This gentleman is part of a pretty large movement within the industry. We speak about AI, not to mention as well the broad audience that he gets to speak to on a very regular basis. He has the Ricky Carruth Show as a podcast, but then one of the major thought leaders within the real estate industry as well. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to Rethink Real Estate. My name is Ben Brady, and this is a real estate podcast aimed to deliver sales strategies, marketing tips, and business insights from industry experts and myself to build a listing-focused business for the future. Let's get into it. Ricky, welcome to Rethink Real Estate.
Oh, dude, thanks for having me, bro. Good to see you.
So just for the audience, just quickly, obviously I've gone through a bit of an introduction already to what you've done and who you are, but real estate, how did you get into it? Why real estate, and what keeps you going?
I don't know, man. I failed a history class. I failed a history class in college, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So real estate seemed like, okay, this is an easy path because it's just one class. Yeah. You know, instead of going to college for 10 years to be a doctor or a lawyer, I could be a real estate agent in literally one class. So I'm really, when I see an opportunity to compress time, I jump all over it. That's why I was able to, get in when I was young and get to where I was selling 100 properties a year as a single agent, because I find ways to compress time. And I'm not the best at leveraging because I don't have a team. I don't have any employees. I didn't build a real estate team. But I'm really good at leveraging myself and finding efficiencies to compress time. Like my real estate business as a solo agent crushed all the teams in my market in terms of sales, but not only sales, but profitability. Right. Teams work on like 20, 30% margins. I'm working on like 90% margins. So not only am I outselling them volume wise, I'm also, my profit margin is, 3x theirs.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it, man. That's why I kind of got in the business. I just saw an opportunity to compress time of my life into a career that had the same opportunities as a doctor, lawyer, etc. I wouldn't take anything back. Who knows what the right and wrong answers are,
I think that there's a part of this also that I look at, because that first comment, and I want to dive into a little bit more from an industry perspective later on in the podcast, but I think the trend has been over the last, I don't know if it's 5 years, I don't know if it's 10 years, it just seems to be that it's always been there, is that you've got to build a team. And I have a fundamental problem with that, in the sense that we get to deal with agents all over the country with what we do on a daily basis. We have listings in about 30 different states at the moment. And the one thing that we do is we're a service-based company that offers a non-distressed auction process to agents external to our company to partner with them on listings that have been sitting there for a long time. And the thing that pisses me off to no end, Ricky, is that I fucking cannot stand, it makes my blood boil even thinking about it at the moment, is that these team agents where I have to get through 3 different people to actually ask who was the people talking to the buyer at the open house, or who was the person that actually picked up the phone to show the property. It seems to be that the agent or the team lead is removing themselves so far away from the transaction that the person that isn't benefiting is the person that actually owns the property. Do you see that?
Yeah, a lot of teams, it does. The clients end up being just another number, and they're just trying to ramp their numbers up. Not going to there's a lot of great teams that do a really fantastic job and have a lot of really incredible systems in place, but it does a little commoditize the client into, more of a number and running them through a machine, and a lot of service and a lot of quality representation can kind of be lost and watered down. You're absolutely right. But I mean, you take all that out of the equation though. Just think about the sheer fact that you're basically, so you're right. A lot over the past really maybe 25 years, teams have been kind of like, okay, this is what the process is. You become an agent, you start selling, and you build a team. And what people don't realize, what agents don't realize, is that being an agent itself is a full-time job. And what the part they don't realize is that being a team leader is a full-time job. So when they're an agent and they're still in the building stages of their business and they decide, I'm going to do a team, well, now you basically have given yourself another full-time job you didn't even know you were giving yourself. And you have two full-time jobs now. And the full-time job as a team leader literally cost you money. And so now you're taking time away from your business, from building your business to make money, putting your time into something that is costing you money, time, energy, stress. I think one of the problems is agents. Here's the problem. Agents either try to build a team too early in their career or too late in their career.
I've never thought about it that way. That's a really good point.
That's really the problem. Because when you do it too early, you haven't built up the business, the book of business you need to be able to step back from that a little bit, to invest the time you need into building the team and doing it the right way. And then later in your career, a lot of people try to build teams so that they can just completely step out of everything, right? They build the team so that they can step out. Well, by then it's too late. You can't step out. You have to stay in there. When you build a team, you have to stay in there for another good 5+ years to really get it to where it's fine-tuned and running to where you can step away. You can't just put the team together in six to 12 months and then it's going to do good for the next decade without you. You know, you've got to stay in there and make sure you've got the right personnel and the right systems and everything else. You've got to kind of still want to be in the game to build that team to where it needs to be. It can be done, is what I'm saying, but the timing has to be right. You got to be the right type of person. See, I never wanted to manage people and deal with all the stuff. You know what I'm saying?
100%. And just because you're a good realtor does not mean that you're a good manager.
I actually tried to build a team. It was about a year and a half. I went through about 12 agents, and the last agent I had, I finally was just like, look, man, I'm just going to go back to being a single agent. And I was like, if I just invested all the time I've been spending on the team and just invested into my business with my one assistant, you know, we're doing 600K right now. You know, we can easily get to $1 million to 1.2, you know, if I just focused on my clients and giving them the best service. I mean, I think part of a team too is just you want like automatic leads coming in, and you really create that. The best way to create that is through word of mouth, giving great service over a 10-year period, and then having all those people come back to you, send you more referrals. Those referrals come back to you, send you more referrals, and it kind of snowballs all over time. I think agents get a little ahead of themselves and a little impatient with wanting that business that just leads just flow in automatically. And so they build the team and they buy all the leads and do all the stuff. And at the end of the day, they could have just been a little patient, built it slow, built it right, and had a real machine that, like I said, operates on a 90-95% profitability margin.
Yeah, that's right. I think that there's a part of this at the moment, though, that, you know, listings in definitely part of the marketplace at the moment seem to be, getting a listing doesn't seem to be the hardest part of the process at the moment of bringing your real estate business up to scratch. It seems to be that the transaction itself and selling that listing, with the average days on marketplace going up and definitely, you know, sellers' expectations having some level of discrepancy to market value at the moment. I guess that as we segue into more of a skill set basis rather than the infrastructure of somebody's business, at the moment, if you were to look at this, and we certainly look at it, Florida is definitely one of the marketplaces that's been hit pretty hard with, you know, just the interest rates and days on marketplace. Colorado, Tennessee, Texas, Arizona. These are the 5 marketplaces that at the moment that we carry the most amount of inventory in. And I just want to get your general thought process on this, because there's a lot of people that external to this that have seen this before, where average days on marketplace have increased, and they've got to go back after probably 5 years, I would say, and go back to some muscle memory of, hey, this is how I educate a seller on market value. Okay. Then there's the other portion of people that have never seen this before. Okay. And had only understood real estate to be flying off the shelves, and the people that complain that now they have to print open house flyers because they actually make it to the first open house and several more after that. I guess that your overall synopsis at the moment of the marketplace and getting somebody to meet that marketplace, what do you think that agents need to be focused on?
Well, we're going through an adjustment period. This is that little transition moment. So back in 2004, 2004-ish is when things started to turn for us for in my market.
Yep.
Everybody thinks '08 was the big, no, real estate started turning long before that. That was when the stock market crashed and all the bonds finally caved in. I mean, they knew that everything was caving. They just tried to put a band-aid on it for a few years and finally got to where they ran out of band-aids.
Right.
But it started crumbling long before 2008, and it was like 2004 and 2005. I remember we were going through that transition period where actually, what was it? No, it was later in 2005. It was like during the year of 2005. I
Yep.
remember we went through the same exact market we're in right now was 2005. And I remember we were sitting on listings and we couldn't sell them for anything. And finally, a few sellers here and there got the memo
Yep.
and reduced the price 20%. Like it was 500,000 and they reduced it 100,000, and we sold it. And it's not, I don't believe it's going to be that dramatic in this market, that you have to drop things that much. I actually think you might, in certain markets, and definitely with certain listings that are like really, really overpriced. You may have to see some reductions like that. But it's literally price related. So the sellers are sitting there saying, like, I'm not going to sell it for any less than this. And they don't see that one of the problems is that sellers aren't in trouble. We've got like historic low delinquency rates. The lending restrictions have made it to where most everyone is in great financial shape in terms of homeowners. Half the homes are paid off. Another
Yep.
30% own 50% or less. They're all sitting on like 4 and 5% rates. It's crazy. So they're not in trouble.
Yep.
So that's part of the problem is sellers don't really have to sell. So they're sitting here saying, well, I'm not going to sell it if I can't get this price for it. And the buyers are saying, well, I'm not paying that for it. So everybody's just kind of standing still at the moment. There's still deals happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and
There's still,
those are the deals where somebody is the pain of where they are at the moment, or the situation of them selling the property is greater than the pain of moving on. It's one of those
and
things
that's the first question you want to ask your seller, right? Because when you're trying to explain the market to your seller and you're saying, look, we're in downtrending market. You don't need to be at the comps. You need to be below the comps. You have to be ahead of this. You don't want to chase the market down. You don't want to start high and come down. You want to be ahead of it. So, well, I don't really want to do that. Well, let me ask you this. Is price more important to you, or is selling the property more important? What's more important, selling it or getting the price you want? Because if getting the price you want is the most important thing to you, then chances are you're not going to sell it. In this
yeah,
market, you've got to be incredibly motivated right now. That's liable to change tomorrow. That's liable to change next month. That's liable to change in 6 months, next year. It's going to change. This moment is super temporary. Like, it's not going to last very long at all. 6, 8, 12 months. And all it takes is both sides, the buyers and sellers, to just adapt and to become acclimated to where we are. And where are we? We're just kind of getting back to normal. Like, inventory is getting back to pre-pandemic levels. Um, you know, transactions are what's really crazy. Like, we're
yeah.
below 2008 levels. That's where I think we're really, at a
And
historic.
it's just because the sellers can stand off with the marketplace a lot longer because of the thing that you mentioned before is their financial liquidity, their financial health within that real estate deal. It's most of them hold equity, and at the end of the day is that, when you say to a seller and you're in a transaction, hey, decision not to sell today is the decision not to sell for maybe 12 to 18 months. They're like, okay. And if
Exactly.
that's the answer, then hey, we need to not spin your wheels. Now, if you're a new realtor and you can do open houses and you can prospect around that property or whatever it may be, that might be a different reason for taking that listing and simply just trying. But understand that going in.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And when they say that, they don't care if it sells right now or whatever, they're gonna, wait 18, 24 months. 18 to 24 months, believe it or not, is a really short period of time.
Yeah.
Like you're going to snap your fingers and we're going to be 18 months ahead, and you're going to wish you would have developed a really strong relationship with every single person you run into, so that when the dam erupts, when this explosion happens, because it's going to happen. We if you look at mortgage applications, and you look in the ebbs and flows of how sensitive mortgage applications are to the mortgage rates. Like if it comes down 5 basis points, 10 basis points, you see like a wave of mortgage applications. Like people are sitting there chomping at the bits. And you know what? Like 70% of those people are people that own properties.
Yep.
Like you got a backlog of people that want to trade up, people that want to trade down. That's 2 transactions per prospect right there. You got a backlog of first-time home buyers that will dwarf any other time in history. You've got more first-time home buyers right now sitting on the sidelines than you've ever seen in history. And you add that to the property owners who want to move, like it is nobody even understands how big this wave of backlog of buyers and sellers is sitting on the sidelines. Like I know about it and I still can't even fathom how massive this is. Like when a little 3 basis point change on the mortgage rates causes like an insane influx of mortgage applications, it's like, whoa, man, like what does that look like if it comes down 50 basis points or 70 or 80 or even a whole point? It makes you realize that there are some really busy years ahead. So I think that the next 10 years, we're going to see a new normal, I believe, of transactions. Like we normally see 5 million transactions. I think we're going to see a new norm of more than that, 5.1, 2, 3, 4.
Because of the pent-up demand over the last couple of years.
Because of the pent-up demand. It's going to take a while to flush all that through. And this next 10 years, I think agents are going to make more money than they've ever made. I think they're going to be able to sell more properties in less time with AI. I think that commission rates aren't going down.
Right.
And I also think we'll see a lot less agents. I think we'll see the number of agents drop pretty considerably, just due to the advancements in AI and technology and everything else. But I don't know that the decade after that's going to be as good as the decade we're fixing to be in.
Right. Okay.
From 2025 to 2035, I think that is going to be the golden era for agents to take advantage of technology, commission rates, and a massive flow of transactions. And but they need to take advantage of that because, again, once we flush all these buyers out, I don't know that 2035 to 45 is going to look the same.
Right.
I think this is the decade that everybody should be going all in on in terms of, your real estate career.
Right. Couple of industry questions. There's a few things floating around at the moment from an issue perspective that I'd love to get your opinion on. First and foremost would be, at the moment, you did an episode on your podcast that was agents. I think it's agents leaving Compass. And I want to get your feel on all of this because at the end of the day, we have the pleasure of obviously probably being able to speak relatively freely about different brands and things along those lines. And one of the things that Compass and what they're doing at the moment strikes me as is that it feels like the leader of Compass, it's pretty obvious that he's never done real estate. Like it's just and again, I'm not like, congratulations to somebody that can raise $1.8 billion to buy the biggest market share in the US overall. Like that's amazing. I could never ever thought that could have happened. But the reality is that somebody at the moment, like I could understand what they're doing at the moment from the private exclusive listing if the marketplace was really good. Like I could really understand what they're trying to do from a revenue perspective. But when the marketplace in 80% of the areas that they're in is not good in any way, shape or form, and they're trying to do this and piss off the MLSs and go through that process, it just feels like, it's like, dude, you've never sold a home in your life and you can tell that.
Well, they're just being very rebellious. They're part of this organization, your local chapters, your boards, your MLSs, your board of realtors and stuff. You're also, members of NAR. And you're just it's like a little kid rebelling to their parent.
Yeah, right.
They're like, you're just controlling me, kind of thing. And, you know, they say stuff like, seller's choice and, Zillow shouldn't be able to control everything, or the MLS is this, the MLS is that. And, for me, I'm just like, why don't they just leave the MLSs and stuff? Why don't they just, because nothing says they can't just leave the MLSs and just have their own portal and just go do whatever they want to do. Like, you can legally do that,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're part of an organization, you got to have to abide by the rules of that organization. And as far as Zillow goes, I mean, they're a business that's going to look out for themselves.
Sure.
Okay. Can you blame them? I mean,
No.
that's what Compass is doing. They're looking out for themselves. I don't like how, and this is just my opinion.
Sure.
I don't like how they hide behind the seller's choice thing. And, the whole time I just honestly just believe that this is, for domination of the company, to be able to control more of the inventory. Why not? Like, that's a good business move. That's a good business move for Compass. What Zillow does is a good business move for Zillow. Everybody's going to do what's in their best interest.
Yeah.
EXP, they basically stood up to agree with Zillow.
Yep.
And what's so funny there is like EXP would be the biggest winner if everybody went private listings.
Yeah.
Because they are the monster of the cloud-based brokerages. If everybody went private listings, all the agents would have to go to one of the big brokerages just to have their hands on some kind of inventory. It would crush all the mom and pop companies and all the small boutiques, because all their agents would go somewhere that had inventory if these companies aren't going to share their listings with other brokerages, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the big winners would be like Remax, Keller Williams, EXP, Compass. All the big ones would win, and all the little ones would get crushed.
Yeah. Because
But
it seems like to me with Zillow. Sorry.
But EXP would be the biggest winner because they're the biggest cloud brokerage. And so
Right.
if you have all these small mom and paws and all the agents dispersed to a company, okay, they have the choice between Compass, Remax, Keller Williams, EXP. Who you got Anywhere, you got Douglas Elliman, you got a couple other big ones. But then where are they going to go? Well, yeah, some of them will go to some of these other ones, but I would guarantee you most of them would flow towards EXP. So EXP would be the biggest winner, but yet they're the ones kind of taking Zillow's side, saying, no, we need to keep everything on one platform. Like, of course, man, like Zillow has ulterior motives. Yeah. Right. We all know that. But I think it's interesting that EXP takes that angle, because it's actually not like, if they went private listings, they would actually benefit hugely, but yet they're against it. That tells me that they are actually more pro-consumer.
Yeah.
Than they are. But people would argue that and say, well, no, because that's not really going with seller's choice. But the fact of the matter is sellers have always had a choice. They don't have to put their property on MLS. That's been a choice, forever. I mean, celebrities and, people in those, high profile situations, they've done that. And what I don't like is that they're trying to take a situation that's good for high profile people and normalize it to the everyday American. Like, okay, your house is worth 400,000, you should start out off market. We'll test it out with this, very, very small group of buyers. It's not really a true test. Right. It's not a true test. Who knows what that would have looked like on the market? And they're trying to save face of days on the market being publicly, out there. To me, that's kind of like hiding the fact that the foundation has problems.
Right.
I mean, if something's been on the market, it's been on the market. If somebody's trying to sell something, they've been trying to sell something. If a foundation or there's a roof leak, then there's a foundation or a roof leak. Anyway.
I just think there's a part of this as well that seeing how other countries have done this with the way that we've adapted our business, whether it be Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, China, Indonesia, we've done a few different adaptations over the time. The US is the only place where the MLS exists.
Right.
And it seems like the relevance of that MLS is becoming less and less and less. Now, don't get me wrong, I've been in the US for 11 years. And even when I first moved here, people are saying, oh, the MLS will be gone soon, which again, it's going to take a very, very, very long time for that to happen. And if Zillow really wanted to, lean into things and be one of the most profitable real estate portals in the world, like some of these others that are external to the US, is that they should be partnering up with the agent community to go, hey, you guys can come direct to us. We're not going to get the feed from the MLSs anymore, and we can just publish. Because let's face it, this is the one thing that, and again, you may not agree with this, but I hate the word marketing in real estate because it's a bullshit word for agents to keep relevant within a conversation, because they don't really market it. It just syndicates to Zillow. And if it's not on Zillow, the thing doesn't sell. So the part of that is that it just seems like there's this hurdle in place in order to get it to the public marketplace in the first place anyway. But Zillow won't have direct feed because they don't want to lose their relationship with the MLSs, which in turn are kind of working against the agents anyway, even though they say they're not.
Mm-hmm. It's real messy is what it is. It's super complicated is what it is, in my opinion. Like the whole thing, the relationship between all these different portals, what all the different people want, what their motivations are behind what they want. It's real complicated, right? And, at the end of the day, we don't, as agents as a whole, we don't know how this is going to play out. We don't know that MLS is going to go away. We don't know, if Zillow is going to be a pay to play where you have to pay to put your listings on MLS. We don't know if if agencies are going to be able to have their own private listing portals. We don't know how all this is going to play out. At the end of the day, for agents, it's kind of something to keep your eye on, but more of a much ado about nothing. Your number one goal should be to make sure everyone in your market knows who you are, what you do, and you're here to help. And, and then however we have to market properties or, get it out to the people and all that and get the most eyeballs and all that stuff, that's obviously going to change to a certain extent. But, who is here to say it was just going to stay the same forever? Things are always changing. Like I'm helping people start to create content and build brands, and they're having trouble with creating content and social media, and they've had a little taste of trying to figure it out. And I was like, we can move on to the next thing, because what you guys are realizing is that you're in this stage of trying to figure it out. And I'm here to tell you, you're never not going to be in the stage of trying to figure it out, because things are changing and moving so fast. Same thing here, how we market, how we get listings out is going to change. How we operate in this new world of AI and technology and communication is just changing so fast. You're in a constant stage of like keeping up and trying to figure out, what's going on and how we can optimize everything. And so you gotta kind of love being in that. If you want to really crush it, as an agent, as an entrepreneur, as somebody in this world, you've got to love to be in that stage where you feel like you're brand new every day, trying to figure out what's going on, and how we can use this to optimize our business. And I think that's how it's going to be for real estate for forever. I think that's how everything's going to be forever. And this is why a lot of people just stick at their 9-to-5s forever, because there's not a lot changing there at their 9-to-5s. They can just stay in the same mindset. They can just keep doing the same stuff. They don't really have to do too much thinking or changing or figuring things out. There's somebody else figuring out things for them, but if you want to be a leader, if you want to own your own business, if you want to be a top real estate agent or mortgage person or insurance person or whatever, content creator, then you've got to love the process of feeling brand new every day and waking up like, okay, I gotta basically learn everything over again, because that's what you do.
Yeah, that's right. And that process can terrify some people. But I guess that for you, Ricky, as we wind things up, what are some of the things you're focused on to close out 2025? We're sort of over the halfway point at this point. What is the remainder of the year look like? What are you focused on?
I think AI is my main focus right now. Just understanding it more, learning more about it, understanding how top agents are using it to optimize their businesses. Because I honestly believe agents will be selling more properties in less time. I think what it looks like now is nothing compared to what it's going to look like in 2 years.
Mhm.
Um, and the agents that, like, I know that what I'm learning about AI right now probably won't be relevant in 18 months.
Right.
However, the skills that I'm developing around learning it will be relevant. And I've been preaching for a while that this is going to take out a lot of agents, because if it helps agents sell more properties in less time, then the agents who are using it to sell more properties in less time are going to overshadow the ones who aren't using it. And they're going to be left in the dust because there's not going to be any properties left to sell, because the ones who are optimizing based on the new technologies are going to just eat up all the market share.
Right.
And so I've been preaching this for a while, and now I'm kind of obsessed with understanding it to the point where I can actually help the agents who are going to be part of that next generation of agents who are using it to sell more properties in less time, actually helping them understand how to do that. So that's what I'm really the most focused on in terms of, like, helping agents, my coaching business, etc. Um, that's what I'm most excited about right now, because I just see massive, massive opportunities, man. AI is insane.
It is. It's unbelievable to sit there and see what it does. And again, as we navigate through that journey, Ricky, I'll make sure that everything that you do and how to get in contact with you is in the show notes below. But again, you'll probably be one of the people that is helping trailblaze through all of that, because it is. It's a confusing world, to say the least. But that being said, is that confusing world creates a distinct amount of opportunity for
That's it.
individuals to really take it with two hands.
That's really what's most exciting. And I talk to the top people in the industry that are using AI and the most cutting edge trending things that are happening. And it's really cool because as I talk to these people, like, one person will tell me things they're doing, and then I'll talk to another person, and, like, they're telling me things that are completely different than what this person said. So now I know more than I know more tricks than the person I just talked to, because I'm taking tips from as many people as I can that are at the very tippy top of their game in terms of using it to optimize everything. And so, yeah, I do at this moment kind of feel a little bit like Superman in terms of just being way further ahead than most people, in terms of how to use it, for the betterment of your business. So, yeah, super excited.
Good deal. Well, Ricky, thank you so much for joining us on Rethink Real Estate. It's been a pleasure.
You're the man.
So about 75% of our audience hasn't liked, followed, or subscribed to our podcast. It would mean the world to us, and it would help this podcast more than you know to expand our reach if you were to like, follow, or subscribe on any of the platforms that you're watching or listening on. Thanks again.